Hey, how's that Andy Williams song go? That one they always play around Christmas time. It's the most beautiful or the most wonderful time of the year, I suppose,
Uh,
huh?
I think it is. I think it is the most beautiful time of the year, most wonderful time of the year to be a sports car racing fan. And we can't go too far into this without addressing your backdrop change, can we?
No, well, yeah, or the time change. Um, suppose where you are, it's a little early for an episode, huh?
It is. I'm sure all of our viewers are or listeners are wondering why. Oh, 6 o'clock Eastern time on a Tuesday. What's going on?
Yeah, the most accommodating time slot for a European listener, I suppose, ever. So that's something. If we got anybody, I mean, I'm in the same position as you right now. I'm in France.
Well, I was gonna say is this the first time has been a Europe that we've had a year there's been a European on the show?
Uh, in your time, yes.
At
I'm
least
thinking
at least
back, we've had
somebody
guests on before that were European, so
okay. But okay, what were they in Europe at the time?
ooh, that's a good question.
No, so this could
Maybe
be we
not.
could be breaking new ground here on episode what is it? This is
Mr.
90s
Worldwide.
now?
We're going worldwide here.
Exactly.
It's the worldwide tour. Yeah, of course, I'm over here for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 93rd edition of the world's greatest endurance race. And I'll tell you what, man, it is everything I remember. I was here in 2023, back here again right now. This is a very tiring week, not just because I'm doing a podcast at midnight, but for other reasons as well. This is actually the only night we could do this right now because we have night practice tomorrow going until midnight. Thursday night, same story. And then Friday, I'll be damned if I'm doing an episode at midnight the night before the race. But yeah, I'm living it up here. I'll tell you what, I've got my apart from the laptop webcam, which we're rolling with here. I got my pain au chocolat. Um,
Oh,
I've got.
man, now
I'm
you're
gonna
getting
go
me
ultra
hungry.
pompous in this episode because I'm here. But I got the traditional water, but it's in a teacup,
Whoa.
which is maybe a little more British than French. But we're gonna roll with it. Um, yeah, I'm living it up though. I'll tell you what. Getting to the Circuit de la Sarthe, if you haven't been able to do it in your life, of course, make it a bucket list item. But not only that, make going to this race a bucket list item. This is something that I think every motorsport fan, whether you're a huge sports car racing fan or not, should be putting near the top of their bucket list. And especially with the era that we're in right now, I try to make a point to everybody. If you have the means to do it, even if it means you're going to be saving up for 2 or 3 years, I think we're going to be in a very similar position 2 or 3 years from now with what we're seeing in the top class. Hopefully, I don't eat my words on that. But do what you need to do to make it out here because this is this is the pinnacle for endurance sports car racing. This is the peak, and I can't say much more than that. I'm sure we'll get into more of those thoughts later in this episode. I've already had a couple of
Yep.
days at the track, including today. I've been managing the sunburn uh, okay. We haven't done incredible. The French sunlight is definitely pretty strong. It was actually cool here starting off the week, but definitely dipping into the warmer temperatures now. Although I haven't quite gotten used to the Celsius system yet, so might need to take some pulling
Oh
of sugar there.
yeah. I never even thought of that. Yeah, welcome to my struggles.
Struggle. I mean, here's what I've learned a thing about the Celsius system, and I don't know if you can correct me on this. And maybe we should start talking about racing rather than talking about the metric system here. But
No, this is a good start. This is a good start.
got to lead it in somewhere. I've learned, for me at least, that anything starting with a one is like relatively cool. Like we've had 18-degree mornings here, 17, 16 even.
Yeah.
Um, Sweatshirt weather, go outside, it's a little chilly. Anything starting with a two is like, very reasonable. A nice, perfect temperature at a racetrack, I'd say. Low 20s, upper 20s. Getting a little warm on the upper end there. But
Yep.
anything from the 30s onwards, you
Yeah.
lost me. I'm
Yep.
not too happy anymore. So we're gonna roll with
Yep.
that for
What?
now. I've
Yeah.
been sticking to. I've been doing okay with the kilometer to mile per hour
Okay.
conversions as well. So by the end of this, I'll be a pro.
You'll be a pro. Yeah, it's very much the different stages. If you're in the teens, then yeah, it's a little bit chilly, but you're probably surviving. You're gonna be fine. In the 20s, nice temperature. But then once you hit the 30s, that's kind of hot. That's the what I think that translates into the hundreds Fahrenheit is when you start talking in the it's getting close.
Yeah, I thought it was like getting towards the upper 30s, maybe like 35.
Oh yeah,
Listen,
you're right.
I can't talk about. I'm on a time crunch here. Okay, I get to go to bed
That's
after
true.
this, so I'm not going to spend the entire night arguing metric system with you. Um,
Let's talk about racing then, I
we got
guess.
we we got a test day to talk about here. Of course, the two test day sessions that we had on Sunday, a couple days ago already, which is crazy to say. Doesn't quite feel like that much time has gone by. But the first on track running that we've seen here at this track since the race finished up here last year. Very interesting to have the test day in June. It feels like when I was growing up, seeing used to that test day being in April, over a month before the race. Now it's all sort of part of that week festivities. We're starting up the week with scrutineering, hitting the track not long after on Sunday. And then we get a few days break before we're back on track for practice on Wednesday. Definitely not an incident-free testing session this weekend. If there's anything you do not want to do, is start your weekend or your week off on the wrong footing. But a couple teams can't quite say that. We had Luca Giotto crash in the Porsche Curves in the morning session, the 34 Inter-Europol LMP2 car. That car actually made it back out for the afternoon session. The bodywork on the back of that car was noticeably unbranded. I believe they were just running a plain black piece of bodywork on the back of that car. But did make it out, which was great to see because it wasn't a certainty that they were going to be out for that second session.
Yeah,
then,
the damage on that car didn't look great from the images that I saw.
Yeah. Afternoon session as well. 3 red flag periods in relatively short order. It didn't seem like we had much time between the 3 of them. A couple of them being one of them was for the number 11 Proton LMP2 car crashing over at Indianapolis. We had the Iron Lynx Mercedes, one of the 3 silver cars. By the way, side note, those cars look phenomenal in person.
Oh, do they?
The Sauber C9 throwbacks. I saw the vision when they announced it.
Yeah.
Didn't think it would look as good as they do in person. Got to be one of my favorite liveries for the race this year. So it's nice that we have 3 of them as well. Anyway, not so great for them. They also crashed in the Porsche Curves, although this was on the exit where they have that extended runoff nowadays. But nonetheless, didn't save them there. And then I guess the main incident, the main talking point, not quite during the test session, but came out the day after. So yesterday, 2 days ago for me now, was that of the 85 Iron Dames Porsche. Talked about them in the run-up to the race last year. They ended up having to replace Dorian Pin for that race, and because she had trying to remember what happened to her last. I believe she got injured in was it a Freca race last year? Was it F1 Academy? She was injured.
Yeah, yeah, it was something like that.
She was injured and was replaced by Rahel Fry for the race last year. This year in the test session, it was Michelle Gadding, new Porsche driver. Of course, was very excited to make a debut, or not a debut, but a strong performance out on track for her first Le Mans as a Porsche factory driver. Will not be on track for the rest of the week, including the 24 hours of Le Mans. Suffered an incident in the pit lane that resulted in her getting a fractured foot. The officials on that, I don't believe, are out on what exactly happened there. I've heard some stories going around on what likely was the case there. I think you can probably put 2 and 2 together. But nonetheless, we'll be seeing Sarah Bovey returning to that team for the weekend. Of course, she was sidelined at the beginning of the year because of her FIA rating getting bumped up from a bronze to a silver. You're too good to race an LMGT3, but when the other silver driver gets sidelined, she gets the call up. And I think that's a great opportunity for her to come back. There's actually a video that Iron Dames put out for Michelle calling Sarah and breaking that news to her.
Hard to watch.
Hard to watch for sure. Yeah. It's the team that we, I guess, can't stop talking about with these poor news stories, right? Whether it's breaking down during the race after a strong qualifying session, nothing has been going their way in recent memory, at least in the WEC. Of course, they found some success over in the European Le Mans series, but even in IMSA as well, it seems like most of the news we have around the Iron Dames has not been positive. And it's usually not too much fault of their own either. So very unfortunate to see that, but great to see Sarah Bovey getting that return. She's very familiar with the team, slotted in very well there, and I'm sure she'll get up to speed pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a pretty good ringer to have in your back pocket for such, a swap out at such short notice. So, you look at the lineup and you still have to expect, you're still expecting Iron Dames to be very competitive in this field. I mean, we've seen throughout the season, LMGT3 can be a pretty big toss up. And you got to feel pretty confident if you're an Iron Dames fan with the lineup that you have going into the weekend.
Yeah, and of course, that car this year being backed by Manthey, and take a look at who won the race last year. In the LMGT3 class. You don't need to look much further. So yeah, definitely one that I would look at. Maybe this is where they get a rebound. We've said this probably at least 5 times now, so I'm not going to jinx them. I'm certainly not going to pick them because that would throw any chance of that out the window.
That's true.
But yeah, I guess you can't really toss that out the window. So let's talk about some of the test day results here. Let's read into things that we shouldn't read into because they're not very important. But there were definitely a couple of takeaways here from the test weekend. It was actually the fastest hypercar test results that we've seen since the introduction of that class back in 2021. The top of the timesheets at the end of the day was the number 8 Toyota, Brendan Hartley, setting a 3:26.246. That was ahead of Take a Wild Guess. I don't know if you saw the results actually, but if we've been looking at the past couple of years, it's a story of Toyota versus Ferrari at Le Mans. And if you look at the rest of the top 3, it's occupied by the 51 and the 83 Ferraris, James Colato and Robert Kubica, setting both of those times, all of those times in free practice 2, where we were seeing some quicker running in the afternoon. Rounding out the top 5, you do have the 36 Alpine with Mick Schumacher actually laying that time down, and the number 6 Porsche 963 with Kevin Estre behind the wheel. Of course, last year's pole sitter here at Le Mans, but wasn't able to convert it into a podium in the race. They'll certainly be one to watch after for the race this year.
You have, I mean, again, it's testing times, right? So how much, I guess it's a matter of how much do we want to read into this, but it's probably safe to say that the teams that we kind of expected to be at the top are finding themselves at the top of the testing times. Is that safe to say? Or is there anybody that was, shuffled down that was more of a surprise to you?
I mean, across the board, I would say it was about what I would expect, right? We're looking at the 2 manufacturers that have been the strongest for the past 2 years. So nothing's changing there. If you asked me at the beginning of the season to just throw 2 manufacturers out there who I thought would be strong at Le Mans, certainly Ferrari and Toyota would be near the top of that list. And then I'd probably put Porsche in as well.
I was just going to say Porsche, yeah.
So to have all 3 of those in the top 5 at the end of testing, again, you don't want to read too far into it, but it's not like we were seeing complete sandbagging going on here. These are times that were faster than we had seen in testing last year, faster than we had seen, well, much faster than we had seen in 2023. So all 3 of those manufacturers definitely have more to show, as would the rest of them on the board, I would say. So the clear picture, I think, is going to be towards the end of tomorrow, 24 hours from now. I think we're going to have a much clearer picture on who is where. But ultimately, the main thing is not just one lap pace. And we've talked about this in IMSA plenty of times this year, but where that pace is in the race. And I think that's where Porsche, and we've made no mistake of pointing this out, has excelled in IMSA this year, is their pace during the race is just phenomenal. Far beyond what anybody else is putting down in the championship right now. And really, Detroit was the only exception to that so far this season. So looking at who I think is going to be strong in the race, I think Toyota right now looks pretty good. Robert Kubica was talking about issues with drivability in the 499P. How much do you want to buy that right now?
Yeah.
I mean, we're into the games here. Okay. Now we have,
if we didn't hear a report of something like this, then there would probably be more concerning.
Sure. Right. Like I said, we are well into the games territory here. And let's just say this is the balance of performance is not final. They can make any changes up until the race starts. But no, I personally am not reading too far into that. I didn't see any major issues with the 499P. I mean, we only talked about the top 5, but if you look down in 6th place, you have another driver in the 83 Ferrari, Phil Hansen, setting a time there to break well into the top 10. And then there's the 50 again in 8th place. So all 3 of those Ferraris right now look strong. I'm not taking those comments with much legitimacy right now. I guess we'll see what it looks like in night running. That's the only thing we haven't seen with these cars yet, and that's what we'll be seeing by the end of tomorrow. Of course, the daytime running here is more favorable, sort of the inverse of what we see at Daytona, where what you're running in the night can make the difference. Although I guess not quite as much, because usually we get a late race safety car in the Rolex 24 that stacks the field up. Looking down the rest of the order, though, I got to be honest with you, there's not really a significant surprise here. I guess the one manufacturer that everybody's pointing at right now and saying, why don't they have more pace? Well, I'll give you a guess first.
Well, there's 2 that really come to mind, I think. Maybe Cadillac?
Cadillac, I think, is...
You weren't expecting a bit more out of Cadillac? They're middling, right? I guess
they're middle of the table. But again, I don't think Cadillac has shown everything that they have. Of course, on the front row last year, after Sebastian Bourdais qualified it in 2nd, I don't think we've seen everything from Cadillac yet. I think Cadillac has been strong. They've definitely shown potential earlier in the season. They were strong at Qatar. What we saw from Cadillac at the test day, I personally don't think is extremely representative. I was really going for the 9X8.
My second pick was going to be BMW, because they were well down the running for most of their drivers. But the 9X8 is a good one as well.
Yeah.
A good disappointment.
Well, yeah, I suppose not an award they would want to win. The issue we're seeing with this car is just continuous at this point, where, and again, testing times here. Let's make me eat my words tomorrow. I'd love to see them competitive. But they still don't have the ultimate pace. They had good pace at Spa, actually, but then blew it on strategy. So we're sort of back to what we were used to seeing with them. In fact, I'm looking down the order here to see what the highest placed. Of course, these are combined results from both sessions.
Yes, that is a good point as well.
But the farthest up 9X8 I see is down in 42nd on the combined times, and I don't believe I've missed any. So take it as you will. They are definitely far down right now. Talking to some other people, they seem to agree that they're the weak link right now. They were very, very strong here in the rain, especially back in 2023 before they had that Evo upgrade on the car. Main reason for that was that they had an advantage with the 4-wheel drive system, where they were kicking in that front-wheel drive motor at 150 kilometers per hour versus 180 for the other cars because of the way they had their tire configuration set up. That's all thrown out the window now. They're back on the same page as everybody else. They're running the same tire setup as everybody else now. So I don't see them having that sort of advantage again. like they had. They weren't really in the showing last year either, unfortunately, at this race. So I'm keeping an eye on them, to be honest with you. I would like to see where they stack up at the end of tomorrow. I would like to see if either of those cars can break into the hyperpole session. But right now, it looks like they're on the outside looking in, at least to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I was looking for some sort of, saving grace for them. Um and yeah, I'm not able to find anything. I mean, again, it's you've reiterated it. We've reiterated it a few times, but this is very much testing where we don't know what all of the teams were focusing on. We're gonna have one free practice session tomorrow morning before we have that first qualifying session. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's the free
Okay.
practice in the morning. Then we have what's technically qualifying practice, but yeah, mainly go out there and set a time to try to get your way into the hyperpole sessions.
Yeah.
And then we have the night practice session later on.
So yeah, as you said, we'll have a much better idea of where pace kind of lies. We don't know with a lot of these times. Are they working on long run pace? Are they popping a qualifying run in here and that's why some of these entries are so high up the board. But yeah, you're spot on. I'm not sure where the highest uh Peugeot was in the rankings, but it certainly was not very high up there. 42nd, is that right? John Eric Verne?
Yeah, that's what I was seeing.
Woo!
I didn't see anybody further.
That
So,
is rough. Yeah, that's 3.1 seconds off of what Toyota set. So,
well, okay, and let's be brutally honest here. There's no way that's everything they've got. I don't think they
yes,
were
yes,
as close to the true potential of that car as, say, Ferrari or Toyota.
yes.
The question is how much more do they have to find? I really think qualifying tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Hyperpole on Thursday rather, is probably going to be potentially the fastest we've ever seen the hypercars. Um, One of the things I actually didn't mention yet is we do have a resurfaced section of the track this year
Mhm.
that was done, I think, in the summer last year, if I'm not mistaken, after the race, um, from Mulsanne Corner to the exit of Arnage, if I'm not mistaken. Um, some of the drivers are commenting on that, having a little bit more grip in those corners. Of course, the main area you'd see of difference there would be the entry to Indianapolis, and then Indianapolis itself being two of the more high-speed corners. The rest of it is mostly straightaway. Um, but what we've seen so far has been a class that's been a lot quicker than we've seen in the test day, at least previous years. I think the BOP is also pretty representative of that. We're seeing these cars running, for the most part, with more power and less weight than they were running last year at this race. And I think pole time, I know pole time was a 3:24 last year. I can't remember exactly what it was beyond that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see another 3:22 in qualifying. So I think even these top guys that we've seen, the Toyota and Ferrari, still have 4 at least seconds to find between right now and the end of Thursday.
Yeah, pole last year was a 324.6
That's what I was going to go with. So you
with
might not believe me, but
with a 6 Porsche.
yeah. Yeah, on edge, by the way. Go watch that qualifying lap by Kevin
Yeah,
yesterday. It was
yeah.
definitely not a smooth one.
Peugeot was a 327 last year, I believe. Maybe they got into a 326. So yeah, a little bit behind, but
Yeah. And to be honest, I'm not really going to look at it any further than that for now. We're going to have a much clearer picture on who's where in the hypercar category. You and I get to give our coveted picks later
oh
on in this
yeah,
episode where we get
or
to
our
make a
anti
decision.
picks.
Yeah, off the info we have given to us right now. But we'll move things on for now. I want to hold true to my word and not spend too much time talking about testing times.
Let's carry on.
Let's carry on. We got the return of the LMP2 class at this
Ooh.
race with the Pro-Am subcategory. as well. Off air, I was giving you a little rant about the Pro-Am stuff. Listen, if you've been around me this week, I've been giving everybody the Pro-Am subclass rant
Oh
in the
boy.
LMP2 class, which is by definition a Pro-Am class. But nonetheless, it was United Autosport sort of backing up what they were doing here last year in the LMP2 class, where of course they won, being the fastest time in the test day this year. Pietro Fittipaldi throwing that lap down at a 3:35.7, ahead of the 29 TDS Racing. And then we had the AO Racing 199 car, 43 Inter Europol, which was the sister of the car that had that accident in the morning. And then the RLR M Sport, number 16 by Patrick Pilet. How interesting is that to say Patrick Pilet in an LMP2 car here at Le Mans?
Yeah.
Know him from a very long history racing at Porsche, but showing some speed there in the LMP2 class, at least in the testing session so far. How much is there to say about LMP2? We got another full stacked lineup of Oricas, Orica 07s here. I don't know. What do you have to say about it?
I don't really know if there is much to say. Like, for all of what we just talked about in Hypercar and not digging into the times too much, that's like that times 10 with LMP2, because spec car, it's a spec class essentially at this point.
100%.
So like you see the 22 United Pietro Fittipaldi putting up a lap that's a half second quicker than the 29. I mean, who knows at this point, right? Like there's not surprising to see some of these guys and gals as well, up where they're running in this. You mentioned that it's an absolute stacked class. There are many drivers in LMP2 that could and arguably should be running in a hypercar entry, but I don't really think he really can't read into these LMP2 times. It's going to be a complete toss up. It's going to be a complete toss up come race day, right? It's going to be a matter of staying out of trouble. And I know we're getting a little bit into, the Le Mans, the preview, I guess, as opposed to talking about some of these times, but nobody really stuck out to me as surprising. Everybody at the top of this board I fully expect to be there.
Yeah, and of course, you being the mostly IMSA half of this show, happy to see some of those GTP drivers in this class, I'm sure. We've made not shied away from the fact that this lineup, this class has a lot of real pro drivers in there. Like we're talking full platinum should be in hypercar drivers. I'm just looking down the list here. Louis Delatraz, Tom Blomqvist.
You don't have to look far.
Antonio Felix da Costa, Oliver Jarvis. Well, I guess Jarvis has been on an LMP2 run recently, but continuing with the IMSA drivers, you have Ranger Van de Zende, Nick Yellowly, teammates over in the WeatherTech Championship.
Andre Lauder is not too bad, I hear.
Yeah, Andre Lauder, he's had some experience winning here at Le Mans. Colin Braun, of course. You can go down the list. It is quite a few of the drivers that we're used to seeing in the IMSA GTP class racing here in LMP2, which has really been sort of where they've been for a while. Unfortunately, with some of those drivers, they don't really have a choice. You see quite a few Honda names in there, unfortunately, with the absence of Honda from the top class here at Le Mans. Of course, there was a article that came out from Sports Car 365 saying that seems like there's not going to be any change for that in the near future, unfortunately. So I guess we can expect to see some of this continuing into the future. I don't know if there's a whole lot else to say about LMP2.
The only other thing that I will say about LMP2 is imagine if we didn't have the IndyCar conflict this weekend and we could have got some more or some IndyCar drivers over here, period. Because that's what this is missing, is whether it's in Hypercar or whether they're sprinkled into LMP2. There are some IndyCar drivers that absolutely you'd love to see in this race.
The fact that we don't have Alex Palou in a
Yeah.
hypercar trying to compete for, for the back-to-back Indy 500, 24 hours of Le Mans in a 3-week span is highway. Well, yeah, it'd be 3-week span is highway robbery.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he's got such a lead in the championship. He could just,
well, that's what I
come
was
over,
saying.
right?
If you wanted to pop over, I'm sure. Who's even second in the IndyCar standings? I guess it'd be maybe Kyle Kirkwood.
I think so. Yeah.
Sure, he wouldn't mind. But I was told that Palou had had a drive for this year in a hypercar lined up, which I guess would have been a done deal at Le Mans last year. Don't know for certain who that was with, but would have been in that car this year if it weren't for that conflict. So, what are you going to do? It is what just don't clash with IndyCar. Sorry, IndyCar shouldn't clash with the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah.
But that's not going down that road tonight.
Oh, yeah. I let the.
I'm sure you're in a great mood right now after hearing schedule conflicts after you woke up this morning.
I opened up a can of worms with that. There's been the schedule conflicts in the racing world today have been lovely. So
yeah, fantastic. And actually, I think Formula One is likely going to clash with the 24 Hours of Le Mans next year as well. What it's worth, with the Grand Prix at Barcelona. Is that still a Spanish Grand Prix? Because they're also racing at Madrid later in the year, supposedly, if that track gets completed. So don't expect to see one Max Verstappen in the 24 hours next year either, unless he pulls a surprise retirement at the end of the year. So
that would truly be a surprise, I think.
I don't know. Talk to some people in F1 media, and they've floated it before. So
we'll see. Don't bet much money on it.
Yeah. Let's talk about LMGT3 here. There's a real standout here to me, honestly. And I thought they were going to be a standout going into this before we even hit the track for the test day, which is Lexus. And we've talked in depth before about the 180 they've pulled from where they were in this point of the season last year, which was just terrible. I think they were 1 point on the board before the 24 Hours of Le Mans. They might have been no points for the first few races last year. But it was the 87 Lexus ASP, Jose Maria Lopez, who led the timesheets in that class, 355.2. These GT3 cars are getting quick, right? Like, we're only at the test day. And I remember back in the GTE Pro class when a low 350 was considered quick. I mean, we're only looking like 10 years back here. So to be doing a 355 on the test day, sure, you're not going to see those monster laps in qualifying because we do have the bronze drivers qualifying the car. So you're not going to see, I guess, the absolute potential of what one of those cars can do in a qualifying setup. But starting the week off strong there. And it wasn't just Jose Maria Lopez in the 87 car. His teammates, or I guess one of his teammates, Clement Schmid, in the 87 car as well, was rounding out the top three there in the LMGT3 class. Apart from that, the other strong runner after test day really looks like the Ferraris. And boy, oh boy, do we have no shortage of Ferraris here this weekend.
Nope.
You look down the pit lane. Most of them are all grouped together. A lot of the cars that we've seen added onto this race as ELMS, ALMS entries were from the Ferrari mark. And a lot of those are also under the AF Corsa banner as well. So there is a scenario where AF Corsa could win in all three classes this weekend. And in LMGT3, I suppose, definitely not far from being possible with Alessio Rovera in the 21 Vista AF Corsa, one of the full-time Ferrari entrants in second place this weekend. But then we had the Kessel Racing, the 57, Casper Stevenson.
I can't associate Casper with a Ferrari. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a new one. And then the sister Lexus, the 78 Akotis ASP, rounding out the top 5 there. This is all, again, just the combined driver time, so you do have some duplicates in there. But mostly what I'm seeing here in LMGT3 so far, at least, is a story between Lexus and Ferrari. Manthey not too far behind there with the number 90 car. But apart from that, there's 2 strong runners right now that I'm seeing.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you get a couple of other runners up there. Like there's some BMWs, sprinkled into the top. You start to see the Fords emerge a little bit further down, but I mean, as of just test day, Lexus and Ferrari really do look like they're going to be kind of the ones to beat in this. So, be a big breakthrough for Lexus, I suppose, right? Because Lexus has still not won a race, have they?
Nope.
No, GT3. They've shown really good pace this year, but this would be a big breakthrough for them with a new car on the way next year, right?
Allegedly, supposedly.
Yeah, that's been ready for like years.
Car's been on track testing since last year.
If it may have been on track at the end of 2023, there may have been some spy shots of it, but at least at the very least, it was the beginning of last year. So
yeah,
it's been a long time.
Jose Maria Lopez, of course, back in his full season entry here. He got that late call up to the number 7 car last year.
Yep.
But barring no cycling injuries this year for the Toyota team, which I'm sure I was surprised to see the Porsche drivers were out cycling this weekend. They were out cycling with the Ferrari Hypercar drivers. So I guess we're not learning our lesson on keeping these guys off of bikes during the week of the race. But
I saw one of the Cadillac drivers too, with picking up a new bike and bringing it to Le Mans. So it's like,
you're playing with fire.
Like, guys, you see this whether it's in sports car racing. How often have we heard about this in F1 as well? Like, just stop. Just stop. It's the biggest race of the year for you guys.
Well, this is where like we need to stack the schedule like the Indy 500, because I don't think the drivers are busy enough.
No, yeah, true.
If they're out here on bikes on Monday and Tuesday, just going around and getting injured, and then we have to replace them in the race, then we're not keeping them busy enough. So,
yep,
we've already got 4 free practice sessions. Might as well bump it up to like 10, whatever.
Yeah. It's just for the driver's own good, right?
We'll go with that, sure. Let's talk about a manufacturer in GT3 that's been strong in IMSA this year, especially at some of those high-speed circuits. Also has shown a lot more promise in the WEC this year than last, which would be Mustang, of course, fresh off a win at Detroit most recently in IMSA.
Very high-speed track, Detroit.
Well, I was more thinking Daytona, but yeah, we're gonna. Actually, I don't want to talk about Detroit too much here, but was it they were fast in the straight at Detroit, or were they fast on the corners? There was one or the other.
That's a good question. I can't remember if it was the Corvette that was fast on the straight, or the Ford that was fast on the straight. And then
either way, that's hardly relevant. 2 completely different BOP setups.
That's true.
But nonetheless, I am interested to see where Ford is this year. They were, as I remember, Le Mans was the first showing where they showed promise last year in the World Endurance Championship. I'm trying to remember before that with Qatar, Imola, and Spa.
It was not good.
Yeah, I can't remember anything really standing out there. Nor do I have exactly where they were pace-wise in the 24 last year pulled up either.
Well, they finished 3rd and 4th in class last year.
Right.
So.
But just from a pace alone standpoint, I don't have it handy. So I'm interested to see where they are as well. I'm looking down the list. The fastest Ford was the 77 with Ben Barker driving. And now that was down in 17th. But again, we're looking at combined times here. So the car is actually not that far down the order. There's 71 times on this list here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, To answer your question about Ford's pace last year, I mean they were solid and they showed decent pace in qualifying. They made it to hyperpole. I think they qualified fourth. Um, so yes, you're right. They did show that glimpse of pace here last year, and I think you could reasonably expect them to do that again. The step forward that they've taken, stateside at least, has been a big one, and I would expect that we're going to see, that start to translate more over to the WEC side of things. I know that we were still seeing Fords catch on fire at the beginning of the WEC season.
Well, you're the one to bring it up, not me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they got all their fiery all the fires taken out of them
FIA part.
at yeah, the FIARE fire.
I think you've
Anyway,
tried that before, honestly. I'm not going to let you have it.
it wouldn't surprise me.
No.
It wouldn't surprise anybody at this point. But yeah, you got to expect that Ford build off of what they did last year, and last year was kind of that breakthrough performance in the WEC for them. As we mentioned, third and fourth place finish. They looked really strong. They didn't have any problems in the 24-hour race. It looks like they've ironed out a lot of their, a lot of those reliability issues, with the exception of maybe what we had just mentioned. But let's focus on there. I think they're going to have good paces. Cam is booing me in the chat, so
Well,
uh
rightfully so.
yeah, rightfully so. But yeah, I think Ford, you gotta look at them. And honestly, another manufacturer that I'm interested to see again after our sessions tomorrow, how they emerge from them is Corvette.
Okay.
We do have Corvettes. They're still leading the LMGT3 point standings, with the Ben Keating number 33 entry, if I'm not mistaken. They've slipped a little bit in previous weeks or previous races, I guess. But I'd be interested to see how that Corvette fares around here as well. I don't I don't recall how they performed in this race last year. It was not great. But I think Corvette, this is a big race. They're in contention for the championship. I don't recall how close all the points are, but with this being a double points race in Le Mans, this is a big one for all of the competitors to focus in on and have at least a good run in if they want to stay in championship contention. So I'm expecting big things out of the Corvettes this weekend as well, and wouldn't be surprised if we see them battling, in the top five come Sunday morning.
Yeah, the vibe I've gotten from Corvette so far, I don't think they have the ultimate pace,
Hmm.
right now at least. And of course, that could change. All things will be a lot more clear tomorrow. But um, for them, I think, as you mentioned, the big thing is going to be finding points in the race, even if you don't have the ultimate pace to win, and sort of mitigating that championship lead that they hold right now. Because this is a double points race, like you said. So
Yep.
finding a way to grab anything out of this, now, I don't think they're going to be struggling to be in the top 10. I would certainly hope not. But if you manage to break your way into the top five, that's still a
Well,
good point. I hate that. First of all, I hate the fact that we're talking about Le Mans as a good points day, because
yeah,
this is not what this
you
race
should
is
be
supposed
going
to be
out with the
about.
sole purpose of trying to win it, right?
The,
But
the you know, I if I'm in charge, this race is not double points. But I I I especially hated when this race was the championship. There was a year in the super season where this race was the championship finale, and wasn't a fan of that, because of the more we're talking on the race broadcast about, oh, they need this to win the championship. To me, this race trumps the championship 10
yeah,
times out of 10. So
absolutely.
I don't want to get too deep into those talks with this race, at least. But of course, something they're still going to be thinking of. If you can't win the 24 hours of Le Mans, you're still going to want to come out of there with a points lead if you can.
And to kind of wrap up that thought about Corvette, and maybe they don't have the ultimate pace, but they've shown in races this year that where they don't have the ultimate pace, that they're still able to go out and deliver that really consistent run that
Mhm.
that nets them a good finish. So, um, you know, we're talking about this is a really strong team here. This is like TF Sport. They've won this race with Corvettes. I know it was back in the GTE AM days. They dominated that last year, the championship, right?
Well, that
That
was
was TF.
Corvette Racing.
What? Oh, what? It wasn't with TF Sport at the back.
No, no.
No, no, man. Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, scratch that. Corvettes. They're screwed.
Well, TF Sports had no shortage of strong results here either. So I'm not
Yeah, I
gonna.
just very closely associated TF Sport, I think, with Ben Keating now, and Ben Keating being associated with that ride. So
I've
back to the
finally stopped
drawing
calling them
board.
an Aston Martin team, so we've made it this
Yeah,
far.
fair enough. I was looking at one point. I was looking for Ben Keating on the LMP2 uh, leaderboard here. So yeah,
Yeah, they're not allowed to. He's not allowed to do the double that he loves to do in IMSA, where you go run in two cars. So
Adrian has pointed out in the chat that Ben Keating did win with TF Sport
yeah, right.
in an Aston Martin, though.
Yes,
So
yes.
not quite Corvette, but
Um, the other manufacturer, I guess the last manufacturer I'll make a point of in LMGT3, because it's the same issue we saw with Lexus at the beginning of last year. And I think Le Mans was, although not great for them, at least starting to show things in a more positive direction. Mercedes. Um,
Mhm.
the way the BOP is set up in the World Endurance Championship is off of data from previous races right now. And what that means is when you have a new car coming to the championship, be it Mercedes in GT3 class or in the case of Hypercar, the Valkyrie, they don't get a very favorable BOP coming in. Now, of course, you can also say that, oh, they're figuring out the car. They're not able to. They don't have the years of experience that other manufacturers have with these cars at this track right now. That does play a factor, of course, but also, for being brutally honest with ourselves, that is the way the current balance of performance system is set up. This is the first race, and really, the way the BOP is set up at Le Mans is completely independent. We're not looking at previous race results at all. It's based supposedly entirely off of simulation data. Um, who knows? But I think this is going to be, if there's going to be a race this season where Iron Lynx is able to turn around the Mercedes, I think this is probably going to be a strong contender at it. I certainly am expecting to see them be a lot more strong, at least in terms of pace, than they have been previously. Now, keep all three of those cars on the ground, and we'll see how things go this year.
Oh my gosh.
26 years, Mercedes. I'm not going to, no, you know what? I can't do that. They're going to leave.
Yeah,
But
please don't scare them away.
your liveries are good. All right, stay on the grid. But I'm expecting to see more from Mercedes this year than we've seen from them in the first three races of the championship, which, yeah, not saying much. But from a pace standpoint, again, I'm looking down the order here. I'm trying to see what the fastest Mercedes was. It was the 61,
Yeah.
22nd on the combined driver times. I wish I was able to, if I had more time here, I suppose I could have combined those results based on car. But I don't have that right now. So.
No. I think the point that you're trying to make here is really valid, and to kind of piggyback on that is, we've seen the Mercedes. We don't have a ton of experience seeing the Mercedes, in WEC competition, really in a representative way of what they can do. But we have seen the Mercedes in virtually every other GT championship around the world, and it's regarded as a very strong car despite its age. We've seen this car continue to win in IMSA, be very competitive at. I know you were talking about Ford and how they were strong, on the banks of Daytona, a very high speed track. We've also seen Mercedes be very, very strong on the banks of Daytona as well. Again, so High speed track. A few people are agreeing with that in the chat. Zachary has a feeling that those AMGs are going to love Le Mans. I think you got to lean in that direction and lean towards agreeing with that, because it does seem like it's a track that could really suit the Mercedes. And yeah, exactly as you alluded to, like this could be an opportunity. This could be the only opportunity for Iron Lynx this season to really show what they're capable of with this different BOP than what they're working off of for the full season.
Yeah. All right. I mean, as far as testing goes, I don't think I have a whole lot else to discuss there. There are a couple other things to discuss for the race, of course. But were there any other standouts from you from the test day weekend before I move things on?
No, I think we touched on all of them. Again, like everything that we've just said, we're basing it off of 2 test sessions that we're probably gonna get flipped on our heads tomorrow, and yeah, be shown something completely different. So I look forward to the classic news after the rain race podcast that comes out, and
Oh, there will be news this week. Trust me.
yeah.
All right. We've spent 50 minutes talking about testing now. I'm very ashamed. A couple other things to discuss for this weekend, though, or I guess this week before we get to the race. We do have that new Hyperpole format this year, which we talked about in depth in a previous episode. But just to remind you, of course, because I needed to remind myself on this.
Yes, please do remind me as well.
Tomorrow, or today for me, LMP2 and GT3 will have a 30-minute qualifying session where the top 12 in each of those classes will move on to Thursday's pole shootout Hyperpole. Everything's hyper here in France. And then a same session will take place for the hypercars as well. So 60 minutes of qualifying action tomorrow, split up between 2 different sessions, hypercars on their own, LMGT3 and LMP2 in the same class. The top 15 hypercars moving on to Thursday. And then on Thursday, we have 2 hyperpole sessions for each class. Oh man, the fact it's so outrageous is that I'm like refreshing my memory on this here, and it's just like we're overcomplicating.
Is it a little frustrating?
We're overcomplicating it here. Anyways, Thursday, top 12 in LMP2 and top 12 in LMGT3. They get 20 minutes each. The top 8 from those classes move on to the second hyperpole session, and then similar format for the hypercars where you start with 15. And instead of going to 8 cars, we go to 10 cars. And then in that final session, all 3 classes will have just 15 minutes each to go for the pole.
Jeez. So it's like 24 hours of qualifying for the
24 hours of qualifying. I gave my thoughts on this in detail when it was announced. To keep it brief here, because there's other things I do want to talk about, and I also do want to go to bed. This is just an overcomplication. I was fine with the hyperpole format, even if I don't think it's needed at every single round of the championship. I think for Le Mans, it was something that was unique. It was something that added a little bit of spice and a little bit of excitement to what should be given additional excitement. If you have a 24-hour race here, might as well make something out of the qualifying format. This is one of the premier races of the season, not just in sports car racing, but globally. If you want to have a made-for-TV product there, then that's fine. You get your Game 7 moment. I don't really see the need here. It's very similar to my thoughts on the current Indy 500 qualifying format. I've said that a few times as well, where you really don't need to keep sectioning down here through multiple sessions. You can just eliminate a certain number of cars after the initial qualifying session, have them go for a pole after that, like we were doing the past couple of years. Is what it is. I'm sure after we get some major surprise on Thursday, I'll flip the script here and say, oh, no, this is perfect. We got a dramatic
Yeah.
qualifying session. But for right now, that's the way I see it.
Yep.
You have something to say here?
No, I do
Okay.
not. I don't want to talk anymore about qualifying.
I also want to bring up a point here. I guess one of the main things we're talking about in the WEC this year, but also looking back the past 2 years at Le Mans, would be the main question for Hypercar. Can anybody unseat Ferrari?
Yeah.
They have been undeniably the strongest car in the World Endurance Championship this year. At the 24 Hours of Le Mans 2023, I think they were a pretty clear favorite from a pace standpoint last year. It wasn't as cutthroat, but ultimately had the pace where it mattered and were able to win the race there. So this year, looking at the test day results, of course, whilst not being the fastest manufacturer, definitely I think being the second favorite. That's the $1 million question. Can they repeat that? And I'm trying to think if we want to even lead this into our predictions here because it might be a good segue.
It might.
But I want to get some thoughts from you on it first, just where we think Ferrari is. We sort of touched on it a little bit when we were talking about the testing results, but definitely a manufacturer that has been no stranger to success here with the 499P. And do we think they're going to be able to continue that streak this year?
Yeah, it's man, it's way too easy to just say yes, right? But it's also very easy to say no, they're not going to continue this. I guess that's why we talk about it, right? Um like you I don't think I can imagine, I don't think I can picture the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year not having Ferrari be competitive, like be very competitive in it. Um, we've seen throughout this season all three cars, the two factory and then the one privateer entry, be very very strong and show that really all three of them are really capable of winning. So I think you have to see Ferrari as being competitive here. But with that, I definitely think that every other manufacturer knows that Ferrari are probably the ones to beat in this year's race. And, coming
Sure.
in with that big target on your back, can it, when everybody knows that you're the ones probably the early ones to beat coming in, there is going to be that much more pressure on you. And how that translates into the racing. Are you being raced a little bit harder? Just knowing that for any car to have to be able to win, probably they're going to need to beat you, or that you're probably the ones to beat. You know, I mean, Ferrari is going to be competitive in this race. We'll talk about predictions, I guess, in a minute. But they've certainly kicked off to a very strong start through, again, just the testing. They look very strong. You can't argue can't argue with the results that they've had here in previous years as well. So, you know, probably safe to say that Ferrari would be the odds-on favorites to win at this point heading into the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Um, Talking about earlier in the episode when Kubica was mentioning the drivability issues of that car,
Mhm.
really what he was talking about was a lack of straight line speed that they were having. So I just pulled up the trap speeds, which we have access to in the World Endurance Championship. Cadillac was actually fastest
Oh,
in the trap speed, which was set. I believe it's at the. I don't remember how the. Oh, it's right before the first chicane, is where they put it this year. I believe it was actually towards Mulsanne Corner previously, but maybe not. 311 Cadillac, though, was the fastest. The 99 Proton Porsche was second, and then the 83 Ferrari was third. But this is, it's difficult to look at that and know the full story because you're dealing with tow in there as well
yep.
as slipstream. So you don't really know the full picture there. Ferrari is, the 51 is there on fifth, and then the 50 is further down rounding out the top 10-ish. I don't see any major concerns there either. I'm just looking at the trap speeds alone, but again, that doesn't tell the full story.
Yeah.
So I think I would disagree with most of what you said. They are definitely the favorites going into this one, just based off what they've shown with that car in the past. And this is the race last year from Ferrari was a lot more mature than they had in 2023, where the 51 car actually got beached in the gravel in the first chicane at one point earlier in the race. Not the first chicane, the first Mulsanne chicane, the Daytona chicane.
Oh yeah, true. Daytona.
Earlier, it's sort of towards the middle of the race, or earlier than that. It was early nighttime hours. What we saw from them last year, that was definitely a more mature, methodical approach. Third year now, right now, they seem to have ironed out most of those issues that they were having, both strategically earlier on with that program, and then also just maximizing the pace that they're able to find out of that car. Certainly one of the manufacturers that I'm putting in the big three. They're definitely in the top three there.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't think anybody, I think everybody is expecting Ferrari to at least be on the podium, right? And
yeah, that's safe.
Be in one of those podium spots. So
yeah, that's safe to say. All right.
Is it time?
It's time. Big prediction time. Most important one of the year, I guess, for me, I suppose.
It's double points for us too, right? So
well, who's keeping track? We're not really...
exactly. Oh, I don't want nobody wants to keep track. We'd be atrocious.
We're not scoring that much here.
It looked like a golf score.
Tell you what. You want first dibs?
No, you can have
all right. Ooh.
As long as you don't pick my
I threw you the ball because I didn't think about it really. Talking about the big three, I think it's Toyota, Ferrari, and Porsche. So am I going to pick any of those three, or am I going to go with a dark horse? 83 Ferrari. I think, and if I stole your pick, you deserved it.
No.
But the 83 really, to me, last year was a sleeper pick. They ran into that issue late in the race. I think without that, I really think they could have won the race there. This is what we know as the privateer Ferrari, still, of course, run by AF Corsa. They won the race last year at Coda. And this year, they've shown that they're just as capable as the other two cars. There's been an argument made in the past of, would AF Corsa would Ferrari let the privateer car beat the factory cars? At this track, at this race, no issue with that whatsoever. Maybe we get into a later race where the championship is more in play and Ferrari's going up against another manufacturer, then you'd see team orders in place there. But we've seen no issues with Ferrari letting them race the factory cars. I don't see that changing here by any means. So I'm going to go with the 83. I think they're going to find redemption where they fell short last year.
I like it.
Plus, then we'd be 51, 50, and 83. So we've completed the trifecta.
That's
Give
true.
Ferrari a hat trick, and somebody else can pick up the pieces next year.
Somebody else can pick up the pieces.
Sorry.
Yeah, that would be seeing Ferrari win 3 in a row would certainly be an accomplishment. It's a shame because we're not going to see that. Because instead, I'm going a little bit more dark horse. And no, I'm not picking a Mustang to win in Hypercar. I am going with the number 36 Alpine. Alpine, they had very well documented issues, or have had well documented issues at Le Mans in the past, but they've also shown pace, and they've shown again some strong pace throughout the early part of this season. I think that they can put it all together here and pull out the win. A good lineup in this car. Fred Makowiecki. Okay, Mako. Jules Gounon, and then of course Mick Schumacher. So I like the look of that Alpine number 36 car for stealing the win from the top three, the big three this year.
Ooh, that's a very spicy pick, but I'll tell you what, it's been a manufacturer that I've been looking at. They've been knocking on the door for
Yeah,
quite a while here.
be a big breakthrough. Nope. We
Quarter of the way in.
lost you for a second there.
Oh, sorry. I'll go.
Yep, we hear you.
Great. Yeah, 36 car. The Alpines have been knocking on the door for quite a while in the World Endurance Championship, but haven't converted to a win yet. I think outside of the big three, maybe I look at them as the strongest. And really, what I was looking at from them last year is they were a pretty strong manufacturer here, but ultimately fell short on race pace. Or sorry, not on race pace, but on reliability. That's what faulted them about a quarter of the way into the race with both cars in pretty rapid succession. If they're able to find a way around that, we haven't really seen any major reliability issues from Alpine since. Then could see it. I got to be honest, you could see it. Be the first win for a French manufacturer in the top class since 2009 with Peugeot. So
be a big deal.
There you go. All right, I'm not letting you get off easy here. You're giving me the first in LMP2.
I'm getting the first in LMP2.
Of course.
All right. Well, this one's an easy one for me. I was looking at the lineups here. You could probably go with one of those Pro-Am lineups because, as you kind of alluded to, it is a Pro-Am class anyways. But if you have a really quick silver driver, that can make a big deal, especially when it's only a three-driver lineup. So, that third driver is really getting a lot more seat time than, you can't really hide anybody in this three-car lineup. With that, I'm going with the number 43 Inter Europol entry. This ride is featuring Tom Blomqvist, Nick Yaloli, and Jakub Schmakowski. Apologies if I am not pronouncing that name properly, but Inter Europol, they won an LMP2. Is it 2 years ago?
Yep.
I believe.
Yep.
So have good experience here. This is a killer driver lineup in a stacked LMP2 class. Gotta take the 43 on in this one.
Okay. All right. We'll go with it. I think they're a strong lineup there. Man, the standout to me is United. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want to pick them, though? This almost seems too easy, but it's not really an easy pick because LMP2 is just a complete toss-up, really.
You're looking at the 22, I assume?
So actually looking at the yeah,
22 is the one with Renger.
22, yeah, because the 22 is not the Pro-Am one.
Yeah.
But they were also fastest in the test. It's kind of cheap. But you know what?
Hey,
I'm letting it ride at this one, okay? Because I'm going to look really bad when I get to the GT3 picks, but we're going to have to go with it. Yeah, give me the 22. United going back to back.
I like it. It's a good lineup. Renger, Pietro, and David Hennemeyer Hansen.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a solid one. So many good LMP2 lineups, though. Man.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we're not going to see much about or hear much about them come the race. The broadcast is going to tend to focus on the hypercars, but
they had their time in the spotlight. 2020 was peak LMP2 getting time on broadcast, and then it's been sort of your spec Orica now. So
this is their one time of the year.
Yeah, well,
maybe
that's an indication of to where the LMP2 class is right now. Unfortunately,
it's stacked.
Well, it is stacked, but can we have additional chassis? Can we have additional engines? Like, I'm just saying. Okay,
I don't know.
I'm being old here, but
We'll save our LMP2
I'm showing
rant
my
for another
age.
day when it's not 1:15 at night for you or in the morning.
Hey, I'll get 113. I'll have you know.
So pardon me.
Yeah, well, the new LMP2 regs are you're going to hear news about that soon. So
Yeah,
you probably won't have to wait too long.
true. Yeah, like very soon, like 3
Yeah,
days from now, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. So LMGT3, I sort of said I'm gonna feel bad because I picked the fastest car from the test in LMP2, but this one I was really thinking of before we even started. I'm going Lexus, but I will. Yeah, you know what? You're really getting no apologies from me here because I'm gonna pick the 87 again, the fastest car from the test. Just because of everything that I'd said earlier, I think Lexus has looked like a strong team this year at those high speed circuits. Um, they've shown pace this so far in testing here at Le Mans, even though that doesn't really mean a whole lot. Um, and they've so far this season shown that they're really able to turn things around from where they were last year. So, gonna need a big points haul to claw in the lead to the TF Sport Corvette, but what a race to do it! What more a race to do it than here and double points on the line? I think it's going to be the 87 car with Jose Maria Lopez headlining that lineup in his return to the Akotis ASP team. Sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I was a little bit worried there for a second, but you've shown pity, and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna lock in that Lexus is not gonna win an LMGT3 with my pick being the 78. I know we try and not go same manufacturer, but
No, that's fine.
we're doing it here because I do like the 78 lineup. I personally I got to cheer for some of the IMSA drivers as well, and Jack Hawksworth is killing it. So gotta yeah, I'm rolling with the 87 Lexus. Strong. They look like they are the class of LMGT3 right now, with Ferrari maybe being close second, but Lexus looks very strong.
Yeah, it's the veteran car too in the class. It
Yep.
hasn't really been changed much at all since 2017.
Yep.
They haven't opted for those Evo package upgrades like a lot of their GT3 competitors, Porsche. Well, I guess Porsche introduces a brand new car every like 3 or 4 years as well. So, but Lexus definitely on the opposite end there. So I'm not really worried about reliability from Lexus. The pace looks good so far. You and I sound like we're on the same page,
Yep.
and we'll see which Ferrari wins.
No, it's going to be Aston Martin. One of the Aston Martins is going to win an LMGT3.
Yeah, or McLaren,
Mercedes,
or Mercedes. Yeah.
Oy, oy, oy.
All right, I'm gonna wrap the episode up with some questions here.
Yes.
Before I head off, I know we had a lot of questions about Le Mans in last week's episode. So if you had any of those that you wanted to ask during this one, that would now would be the time to do it. I suppose it's the last time you're going to hear from us from or before Le Mans this year, at least me. I had a question earlier that I was looking at and I lost it about McLaren. Asking how we think McLaren's going to be doing in. I've lost my question. How will McLaren do? Are they good on the straights? I think McLaren, to be honest with you, are probably going to be middle of the pack team / manufacturer in LMGT3 this year. Of course, they were on pole last year with Inception. I don't quite see the same out of them this year. At least so far, they haven't shown anything that's stood out to me too much. Time will tell. In terms of your question of where they are on the straights, I did have that pulled up because I was looking at the Hypercar trap speeds. They were actually pretty quick on the straights. The 59 United Autosport McLaren and the 95 were second and sixth in the trap speeds amongst the rest of the class, with Ferrari sort of sandwiching the rest of them there and then being the fastest overall. So if you want a car that is raceable here, you want a car that is fast on the straightaways. It's a lot easier to pass there than the corners, of course. So maybe that's where they find an advantage. But maybe a top 5. That's where I see them right now. But in terms of winning, they're not really up there for me.
Yeah, I think we have seen some strong performances from McLaren, but I don't know if this is going to be a track that suits them in race pace, race trim, come race day. So, I mean, now McLaren's going to win. So, hope so. You're welcome, McLaren fans.
Yep. Somebody had asked if there's any manufacturer that we think is going to win all 3 of the big endurance races. So the 3 we've got in a row, we've got Le Mans, we've got Nürburgring next week, we've got Spa. I'm going to take this as meaning overall to keep it simple. Although I guess if you want to look at just the LMGT3 class,
that was the one that I was looking at, but I guess you could look at it either way.
Yeah. If we're looking at overall, I guess your options are Porsche, Ferrari,
BMW.
Is that
it? Technically Aston Martin. Probably.
I'm trying to remember if there's an Aston in SP9 at the Nürburgring this year.
Yeah, it's true.
As I remember, they focused on GT4 previous years. I don't know the whole.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But really, just those 3 are the ones that stand out to me. I guess if it were to happen. BMW. All right, so BMW is a sleeper pick for this race. I think.
I think so.
I've got David Land one room over from me, and he was picking them overall to win the race this year in Hypercar. So we'll see how that stacks up. I don't really know if they're in the big 3 right now, but I guess between Porsche and BMW, it'd be pretty close between the 2 of them. In the GT scene, both of them are, I'd say, neck and neck when it comes to the Nürburgring and Spa. And if you want to look at this from a GT racing standpoint, just looking at the LMGT3 class as well,
you're probably
maybe you look at like
culprits, but
yeah, it's more or less the same.
There's a Ford racing at the Nürburgring this year, right? Yeah, there's a few, or at least a couple.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess if it's an interesting point because it would have never been done before. We've never run these races 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But what PR that would be for a manufacturer like Porsche or BMW, I think would be probably the 2 most likely to do it, especially if they're able to do it overall at Le Mans, would sweeten the deal.
Yeah, I mean, for Ferrari, I mean, has won Nürburgring 2 years ago, right?
Yes, 23.
Yeah. So, I mean, them coupled with, I don't know how they've done at Spa, but you'd have to think that they would probably be pretty competitive there. So, yeah. I mean, would you really be surprised that if any of these manufacturers did it, like BMW, Porsche, or Ferrari? There's a path to all 3 of them doing it.
Yeah. Right.
But I would probably, if we were only talking about the GT entries, the GT3 cars, I'd probably give the edge to BMW. But if you're leaning with overall in these 3 races, man, I gotta probably give Ferrari the slight edge. But this will be fun to watch over the next few weeks. See how these manufacturers do in these 3 huge races back to back to back. Or wait, there's a week off for them, right?
Well, no.
No, it's 324-hour race.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Oh, woof.
Have fun, drivers. Also, you get the 6 hours of the Glen in there too for some of them.
That's true.
But that's in place of the Nürburgring. Have they talked about any of the Corvettes? We did spend some time talking about the Corvettes in GT3. At least you did. So you can go back earlier in the episode to see.
Or just don't. It's
Yeah,
we
Stu
didn't say very many great things about. No, I said it wouldn't be surprising if the Corvettes did well. So yeah, I did say good things about Corvette.
Qualifying theories. I didn't actually think about this one. To keep it kind of brief, I'll just go over Hypercar.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm just going to keep it simple and give a prediction for pole, let's go crazy. Give me BMW.
Okay.
Quick last year in the original qualifying session. Dries Vanthoor, of course, ended up in the gravel at Indianapolis. Ended the session there, but was quick until that point. Hyperpole didn't have as much speed, but Porsche was a surprise for me on pole last year. So I think qualifying can kind of go any way. We'll just have to see where everybody is in that 2-session Hyperpole format now. But not really going to give any more specifics between whether it's the 15 or the 20, but I think BMW could be one to watch out for in qualifying.
Yeah. And
they've been strong in IMSA qualifying this year too. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point. I'm gonna agree with Cam here in the chat and go with Cadillac for pole in Hypercar. They qualified second and third last year in this race, so I think they have some strong qualifying trim, and I like him to take the pole this year.
Yeah. Hometown hero Bourdais, put him in the car. He was actually very strong here in 2023 as well. Car ultimately caught on fire in that qualifying session and wasn't able to finish the job, but put it on the front row last year.
He doesn't have an overall win here at Le Mans. He came close with Peugeot, right? But hasn't quite been able to get that win. So that would be certainly a fun story to watch unfold this weekend.
Yeah, he's been around the block here for a long time. Was able to pick up a win.
1999 was his first race here.
Yeah,
wild.
Was able to win back in the GTE Pro class back in 2016. But you're right, still fine for that first overall win here, where he's had plenty of experience. And of course, like I said, hometown favorite as well.
AMR fan, I believe he finished second in the 908.
Yeah, 2011.
Yeah.
Looking down to see what else was discussed here. Someone just said, honestly, I think the execution of pit stops, minimizing mistakes, and experience will be super important. But with such a close field, never mind. With such a close field, I would bet on Toyota, Ferrari, or Penske, Porsche. So the thing, one of the keys that I didn't really mention here is the safety cars and the new, I say new safety car system. We've sort of been moving around with this new idea since 2023 now, where we're moving more towards what IMSA does, keeping all the cars in one safety car line. If you can stay on the lead lap, then you are essentially right back up with not necessarily close to the front once they go back green again. So that's going to be the main thing. I do think that sort of changes the way this race is run in recent years, where some manufacturers and teams might not be running at 100%. Someone this week actually said that they don't think some of these manufacturers are going to show their pace until the final third of the race. That's something that somebody had mentioned this week from a reputable outlet. We'll see if that ends up holding true, because you do have to get to that point of the race first. I think that's a lesson that Alpine took to heart last year, and Ferrari certainly with the 83 car as well last year might have been taking the same lesson as well. So maybe we'll see a difference in the way that the race is run this year. And if we get a late race safety car, hopefully not any 4-hour ones like we had last year, then maybe that'll change the way that this race is usually run.
We have a we have a non-Lamar question. Is Riley still with Lamborghini? Yes, they will be at Watkins Glen.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The question is, are they there with him next year?
Yeah, well, interesting Lamborghini article today about some legal troubles that that they're dealing with, but we won't get into that on this.
Yeah. What about news of Penske Porsche using a Joker upgrade? Yeah, that was announced this morning, actually. Sportscar 365 were the ones I saw put an article out about that. Did you have a comment to make about that first?
Well, I think they just confirmed that they've taken 3 Joker upgrades to this point.
They took 2 additional ones at the start of this season.
Yes.
For suspension and aero updates to the car.
Which is all non-visual, of their Jokers, right?
Yeah. They've used 3. They get 5, right?
Do they get 5?
I think it's 5.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
I honestly don't remember. So I just always okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Supposedly non-visual upgrades to the car, at least in terms of what the fans are able to see if they want to peep on it. And also said it's not necessarily pace related, but more drivability focused, which is pretty much what we've seen across the board for these Joker upgrades, where they're trying to manage consistency with the car rather than overall one lap pace, because of course that can be balanced out. So yeah, that was announced this morning, or at least confirmed that they've been running those in both championships since the start of this season.
Yeah, we've seen. I believe one of those Joker upgrades was the front suspension that they kind of made some big adjustments to at the beginning of the year. But yeah, as you kind of alluded to, this is really consistent with what we've heard of, not even just in the LMDH with the LMDH cars or the hypercars. But we've also seen play out in the GT3 ranks as well, with manufacturers bringing in their case, it's an entirely new car or an Evo of the car to the table, but with changes focused on drivability and having the car be able to work in its ideal window for a larger portion of the stint. So just kind of a consistent theme that we're seeing in sports car racing is not upgrades for outright speed, but for handling and drivability.
Yep. All right. There's one more question. Now I'm going to end this episode on this question.
All right.
Because I do unfortunately need to head out. We're working on a very interesting time slot over here. But tell me I lost the question now. Somebody asked about French food. What French food I'm looking forward to. I'll tell you what, if you're going to the race this weekend, the crepes over at they're over near the Dunlop Bridge area, sort of near the main fan village. Go hit those up in the morning. Those are a treat. And that's my best food advice. Apart from that, I'll be enjoying my store-bought pastry, my croissant and pain au chocolat, and we'll be going.
I can tell your French is immaculate.
It's we've been trying. I can't say it's gone great this week, but no, we've been getting around. We've been definitely getting around here in Le Mans this time, trying out some new places, trying out some new food, and good times. What can I say? We'll have plenty of that to recap next week, though.
It's true. When you will be located where at that point?
I'll be in Germany, so we'll have another show at a non-traditional time.
Even more non-traditional.
Yeah. I will. I'll give you the floor one more time, though, to give any of your final thoughts before we kick things off here. This is your last chance to sound smart before the 24 hours.
Well, we all know that I'm not going to sound smart heading into the 24 hours, so I will end it off with the team that I'm cheering for the absolute most, best livery on the grid, the 13 AWA Corvette. I'm just hoping that they can bring that beautiful red and white Corvette home with a good finish, because for me it's it's a very local team for me, and I want to see them do well. So hoping for good things from AWA, and of course all of our picks, which we know aren't going to actually pan out. So go AWA.
The pride of Canada. There you
go. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to call it there. Of course, got the race this weekend, and we'll be back next Tuesday at a little bit better time for me. It'll be 9 p.m. Central European, 3 p.m. Eastern time over in the U.S. and Canada. We'll be recapping, of course, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Should be plenty to discuss there. And then also giving a preview of the Watkins Glen 6 hours over in IMSA, which you'll be attending whilst I'm over in Germany for the Nürburgring 24. So again, next Tuesday, not Thursday, next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central European. I hope to catch most of you there, even though it is not our traditional time slot. And if not, we'll be back to normal the following week to recap everything from Watkins Glen. So thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. Hope to see you next week at a bit of a different time. Take care and enjoy the 24 hours.